We arrived in Portland, Oregon on February 1st, 1940, because we had left Germany due to the Holocaust. And my father and I came to stay with my uncle and aunt who had provided the means for us to come over here and purchased a very small apartment house. I got my start by helping out over the years, and then when my uncle passed away, and later my father, my aunt and I managed both apartment houses, and that's how I got an early start. My cousin, who began Carla Properties, he asked if I would help, and since I had a little more experience than he had, it worked out very nicely. Slowly but surely, we gathered up some of our friends, and Mr. Carr and I started the business. The first apartment house that was built was called Raleigh Firs, Raleigh Brook, and then later the Boardwalk on the same property. One of our accountants came to a meeting and said, "You have no idea how good this will be someday," and he was certainly right.
My name is Paul Labby. I have worked here since April 1st of 1980 for my uncle and my mother, just at all the properties as a teenager, doing every kind of job you can imagine. So almost all my life. We also to provide housing for thousands of people. We have probably, close to 6,000 people living in our properties, maybe 7,000 people. And we want to do that in a fair, honest manner. So not all landlords are created equal, I realize that. But we think we do a good job for both sides, our tenants as well as our investors. I mean, the most difficult thing I have is dealing with all the investors and the fact that some of these are now into the third generation of ownership. The first generation were people like my mother. They were immigrants. They worked very hard to earn their money. They were very knowledgeable. They asked questions. The second generation a little less so, and now the third generation even more. So there's an old saying, the apple sometimes falls far from the tree. Well, in our case, we get investors that don't quite understand the business or don't quite understand, what they inherited, and, they need to be educated a little bit. I spend a lot of time with that, or I spend a lot of time with their attorneys, or I spend a lot of time with their accountants, sort of educating them as to how we've done business for the past 60 years.
My name is Evan Labby, and I've been working at Carla Properties for 8 years. My goals, I would hope to continue the legacy of Carla Properties towards being very responsible with our investors' money and growing it to a slightly larger company in the future. Maybe add, 1,000 or so units to the portfolio. But by the time my dad retires, and then I would be taking over his functions as well as some other functions of my grandma as well. So I'll probably be taking over where they left off. I'm just a younger Labby, which is more to the point, I'm a little bit more open to suggestion than my father or my grandmother. So I try to bring that. I think the fact that it's family owned and operated, and the fact that it's a medium-sized company with a small company feel is somewhat unique. There's a lot of companies that will sell or start managing a unit and kick everyone out and try to increase their profits at the expense of humanity. And we try to not be like that, and we try to be people to everyone, which a lot of companies don't do. So that's what I would like to think sets us apart from most other companies that do what we do.